Hello again, everybody. It's time for BitNote again with David Collins. We'll be talking about video games today, including talking about the state of play, which just happened last Friday, and gave a roundup of the state of the Irish video game industry in indie games industry in Ireland. So, stay tuned and have a listen. Okay, so as I just said, last Friday there was State of Play took place, which covered Irish indie games and basically was a great event all round. Now the event had basically two parts of it. There was a demo room where people showed off their games, and a lot of people, especially those in the DIT games courses, showed off games or apps that they were making. And then of course there was also the actual auditorium where there was a full presentation where we rapidly shot through countless different Irish games developers to get their scene and their twist on what was going on in the Irish video game industry. So, to start off with, I think I'll play a couple of interviews I had with people who were in the demo and showing off their game, and then I'll launch into giving you some idea of the stuff that was talked about in the presentations. Hope you enjoy, and I'll just start off now with some of the interviews. So here at State of Play, I have Vanya. Is this?
Yes, Vanya Mutafchieva.
And what game have you developed, and who else are you developing it with?
So we developed a game called Undersea, a Pirate Quest. I'm developing it with Mark Stewart. We work together for this semester.
And so essentially, it's a kind of a physics app. It runs on mobile phones, and it seems that you have to remove the block away so that the pirate lands on the treasure chest.
Yes, that's right. It's quite simple game. You remove blocks to let the pirate land on the treasure chest and proceed to the next level.
Okay, and what are your plans with this game?
Sorry?
What are your plans with this game?
What are our plans? Well, we are releasing it in the App Store for Christmas. It will be free, so you can download it at Christmas, and we really hope to develop it further, and we are hoping for great success, of course.
That's brilliant. I wish you the best of luck. I've been playing it there. I just couldn't put it down. It was a lot of fun trying to get the whole, trying to figure out which blocks to suddenly remove and get the pirate to land on the chest. It's very vibrant, nice art. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I've just been playing another video game called Super Rush Boy, and I'm speaking here with developers. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
I'm Sophia. I covered like the front part, talking about the publicity, and I also worked on the audio in the game.
My name is Ali Milne, and I was the game developer.
My name is Joe Chu. I'm the animator and designer and illustrator of the team.
So, how'd you come up? So, what you got is a kind of a fun game. It's like have a character who's like running up the inside of a tree trunk, and by pressing the button, flicks him from one side of the tree trunk to the other. And in the meantime, you have to avoid all these enemies like prehistoric pterodactyls and T-Rexes and stuff. So, cool. How'd you come up with the idea?
Well, we wanted it to be a very casual game, so something that someone could just pick up and play while they're waiting for a bus. The idea for the character was that we wanted to have a character that was good for men or women of a general age, but was still quite cute. So Joe can talk a bit better about the...
It was mainly designed for, since it's a casual game, men or women, and also younger kids as well. So we designed the character rather cutesy, kids that can relate to, so he was like kind of an animal. It's also the reason for the cartoony style as well. It's nice and colourful, easy on the eyes as well. Not this amazing graphical piece, but more like a cartoon.
Okay, and what do you like most about it so far?
So far, everything about it, especially because we still have the opportunity to improve on it. So everything about it, it's a work in progress, yes. And
I'd just like to take a moment to go on further in that detail. You're doing what a lot of people around in this demonstration are doing. You're taking this event to have people try out your game, and afterwards you ask them for their opinions, they give feedback, they fill out forms, and even I had quite a few thoughts that I felt the game could be improved on, like restart time. So, this tends to be a hugely undervalued part of the game development process by many people, getting people to come in, try the game, get their direct feedback and learning, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. The game does have glitches and things that we know are evident, but it's things like user testing that enables us to be able to increase difficulty or literally just get feedback on whether things were obvious, like the branch and things like that. So,
and since we're basically trying to hit perfection with the games to appeal to the age groups or the audiences that we're trying to get to. Getting the test results from people actually help us do that because we're trying to model it to what people want to see.
And what can we see in the future?
From this game, or?
Yeah, this game and in general.
Well, in this game, obviously, we're going to try and perfect it. Probably a few more enemies. At the moment, there's 9. There'll also be an option for in-app purchase for shields.
Oh yeah. When will it be on the App Store?
Second week in January.
Cool. It's another iPhone sort of game, right?
Yeah, for iPhone 5. Yeah.
Okay. And do you guys have any more general plans for the future?
More general plans for the future in terms of the game, or?
No. The course is quite broad. It's creative digital media, so we'll either go into game development or mobile and web apps.
Okay. Well, I wish you the best of luck and thank you. So that was a great set of interviews, and after spending some time talking around and realising there were quite a few great people, I realised I better rush in and check out the auditorium and see what's broadcasting there. Just an apologies to any Irish game developers who I may have missed out there. I know there were a few, including one particular team I said I'd catch up with, but essentially, if you are an Irish game developer and want to be on the show, just contact me. I mean, I'm obviously on the lookout and I'll be doing some more interviews in the future. But it never hurts to ask for the publicity. State of Play had a really packed schedule, which, like pretty much every schedule ever made, ran on a bit long. We had everything from Redwind Software and X Gamer Studios. Savvy Bear came and did a good showing about marketing and everything. And one of the things I liked was Sock Monster Media, who had this whole pitch of a zoo in my shoe, which was all this sort of kids games that it's all bright and colourful and entertaining and everything. And there was one woman who came up with a very interesting game, Simteractive, and she was dealing all with the classic sim games like Roller Coaster Tycoon and SimCity and all the ones where you had to basically build up a whole functioning simulation, and that was fantastic too. Haunted Planet Studios also came up with some great idea about actually trying to tell a gothic horror story in Dublin by using augmented reality. This basically means you take your phone, you hold it up, and you look through the phone, and then via its camera you see the scene as it is right in front of you. But suddenly on top of that you see all these ghosts or ghouls or whatever, and you're going around all these different routes trying to find these ghouls or gonsters and trying to listen to your phone, and when you get nearer to your next sighting, it changes noise and you get closer and closer. So, and this whole thing about actually making it augmented reality using real world places. They had you walking around Trinity College. They've got one setting where you can do anywhere, and there's one in Trinity College, and it was just a great use of just using your phone to actually walk around an area and play this game, almost a little like a treasure hunt, only with all these great big, ghouls and this whole story and everything that was going on. So there was a brilliant high caliber, and there was a lot of encouragement about other people trying out game development as well. Dave McCabe actually came up with a pretty was part of a talk and gave some thoughts about just how game development is important to all of us, pretty much.
So the part 2 of our section on Intertwined is the guy from that video game you saw earlier on, Dave McCabe.
So State of Play is pretty much a celebration of making games, which is really cool. I mean, we've seen some great games demoed outside, we've seen some great games shown here, but I want to take the focus and just bring it back a little bit. It's also about how we're making our future. So Ireland doesn't have the biggest industry, and it's great to see so many people going out and creating their own companies, creating their own games, and especially in the middle of a recession. It's fantastic to see that. But again, I want to take the focus and just bring it back a little bit. We're not just making our own games, we are together making the future of the Irish industry. And as Ben says, we have to help one another through that, because it's only by sharing that information and so on that we can really create something, a real future for the people coming behind us. But I want to take the focus a little bit bigger. We're in fact creating the future. So it's the celebrated comic creator Alan Moore, the writer of Watchmen and V for Vendetta and so many other pieces. When his friends on their 40th birthdays bought Porsches and motorbikes as part of their midlife crises, he decided that no, he wasn't going to have a midlife crisis. He's going to call his friends together and on his 40th birthday, tell them he was a wizard. This might seem to some of you like a midlife crisis, but if we explore what he means by this, that is to say, a person who creates magic, and what is magic but taking something from nothing and using that something to change the world around you. So Alexander Graham Bell, for example, one day had an idea, and that's all that these things are, had an idea to create, what if we could communicate over long distances by wires? Now we have the telephone, we see how that's evolved. Alan Acorn one day had the idea to make a game called Pong, and now look at the video games have become one of the biggest industries in the world, and we're all gathered here as a result of that idea. Those people changed the world.
It's the 42nd anniversary of Pong today.
I've only got 5 minutes here. Wow.
So as you can see, some great stuff there, and really trying to encourage and really summed up the atmosphere. It was very positive because it wasn't so very long ago that the game development was pretty dismal. Indie games kind of didn't exist, except for with exceptions, and we'll get to one major exception soon. And it was kind of depressing, but now there's a lot of energy. I mean, even I've created an indie game so far, Algebra Balance. It's available now on the iPad, and great for as a fun game and to be good for help learn the basics of algebra. But I try to make it fun as well. But and of course, there were a lot of other events called up as well. One of the talks I really liked there was by Paul McCabe about trashy, expressive, and basically not just making games that were games or systems. In fact, I'll let him speak for himself.
So I don't have time to beat around the bush. Basically, games are not just systems, games are not just rules. This is such a reductionist kind of attitude. Game mechanics, they define our interaction with systems, they define the space we can explore. But it's like they're the frame that we put the painting within. To ignore the painting itself is willfully ignorant, I think. So for example, this is one of the most successful mobile games ever. 500 million downloads.
It looks like Angry Birds.
It's called Crush the Castle. So it's obvious then that games are rules you might describe like a card game or such. But if you mean games are rules in the sense that they are lines of code that execute, well, that's a lot closer, I think. And the MDA framework is quite interesting. It covers a lot of this, but still that's still only part of the picture, I believe. The reason why I'm so kind of passionate about this is that the power that definitions and canon have to kind of limit what we think about and what we consider. So there's a lot of hang-ups on the term game, for instance. But if you look at pop music, isn't the same as popular music, isn't the same as music which is popular, and isn't the same as what they meant 50 years ago. This is exclusionary, so it defines what we pay attention to.
And of course, he went on with those points.
Okay, so the mechanics don't matter, and substance is what's core. Then why make a game? Why not make a comic or a film? Why make a game to express something? I don't think anyone's probably going to anticipate the next slide. I thought this was actually quite funny because this is like a website with some famous people who got quotes beside them. This is like the catchiest quote they could get for this guy. Okay.
It got very philosophical at that point. But the point is, he was trying to express essentially about how there's something about the human experience, about the human element that comes out with what we do. It's not just games. They're not just like put input A and get out B. It's all about how we interact and what humanity is revealed about it. And of course, we got a great thing from Owen Harris of BitSmith Games. Owen Harris did something that maybe I was a little guilty of in developing Algebra Balance, in that is just focusing on making a game that I thought would be popular rather than maybe the game that I would have ultimately wished to put out there. I'll just let Owen Harris do the talking on this one.
Hello. Hello, Paul.
Hi. Hello, everyone. We're like tag teaming this talk.
We're all ready to go. My name is Owen from BitSmith. This is Paul from BitSmith. We're going to tell you two little things very, very quickly. I want you to do the wrong thing. What game should I make? You're going to have this question at some stage when you're making games, and you're going to meet different people and they're going to tell you different things. Oh. You know what this guy's going to tell you. You've probably heard it already. You're going to get a lot of advice about, what the right platform is and what the right business model is and who you should be making games for based on all the information available today. And I think this guy's wrong. And that's a very easy thing to say, but I think I can actually prove it. I I think you should make games that you're really passionate about, and I think you should basically ignore all of the advice that you get.
He's pointing to a picture of a typical business person guy.
At this spectrum of games you might play, this could be, or games you might make, this could be an axis. And I obviously think you should focus on this side. But there's another axis as well. There's the axis of cash money, and maybe a little bit less cash money. And that's an axis too. So that gives us 4 options of how we might feel about our game once we finish. If we make a game that we don't really give a shit about and it does well, we'll be happy. We'll be really, that'll be a good day. If you make a game that you really like and it does well, you'll be like super crazy happy. If you make a game that you really like and it doesn't do that well, you'll probably still be happy because you'll have a game that you really like. But if you make a game that you don't care about and does really bad, you're going to be really, really sad, like desperately sad. So this diagram unequivocally proves that you should ignore everything that people say to you. Sorry.
He goes on a little bit about that point, and unfortunately uses some words that I'd prefer not to repeat in TV because I've had an excellent relationship with Dublin South FM and I don't want to accidentally broadcast profanity and kind of have it. But he made his point that, if all else fails and you're wondering maybe these business guys are right, just look at that 50 Shades of Grey is one of the most popular books available right now. So, as you can see, there's been a great lineup. BitSmith, of course, has been responsible for a lot of games. And we move on to Smudged Cat Games, who are responsible of indie games, Gateways and Shuggy. He's a guy who really works on getting it on his own and trying to market it and get his games out there and make as many revenue generate as possible. So, here's up next.
That's my 2-year-old. You should use the wallpaper in this as well. We moved into a house about 5 years ago and we keep meaning to change the wallpaper. It's really old women-y. But yeah, having the family there, having kids recently, it's been really nice to be able to work from home, and then I can sort of be there for them as well. If I can hear things happening in front of me, I can go through. If it's lunchtime, I can go and have lunch with my family. On the flip side, it's sometimes hard to kind of differentiate if I hear things, if I'm busy working away, and I can hear things really kicking off in the front room, and I can hear my wife really struggling. Me, being the decent chap that I am, want to instinctively go and help. So I've started actually recently writing down the hours that I've been working to make sure that I keep up with actually doing some work. It's so easy to get distracted.
The event continued on, and then we got to one of the big developers. And I mean, okay, it's kind of unfair. No, it's not unfair. These guys is Introversion Software. Now, I've talked about Introversion Software on the show. They're actually English, British, or yeah, and but they've actually been in indie game development for longer than pretty much nearly every other indie game studio out there. And I mean, why don't I just let them tell their own story? I've played, of course, games from previous games like Uplink and everything, and how that when they were starting off, but let's just hear it from their own words.
Okay, Mark Morris from Introversion Software. Hello, everybody.
What a great evening of presentations. Some of them absolutely blew my mind and will continue to blow my mind. Just a quick show of hands. You've been sat in this room for 3 hours. It's quite hot. How many people have heard of Introversion? Just give me a feel. Oh, that's good, isn't it?
A lot of
hands.
hands.
How many people have played Uplink?
A lot of hands.
Darwinian? Yeah, DEFCON?
No, it's
Multilinear? There you go. Those are the people that bought Multilinear. Prison Architect? Oh, I can do some sales tonight. Brilliant. So, it's interesting listening to people talk tonight, and I've given this talk quite a few times. It's just really going to go over the history of introversion and where we started and how things have changed. We started back in 2001. And my aim back then seemed quite similar to some of the people that have stood up tonight in terms of getting some finance and getting a team and getting an office and growing the business and doing all those good things that we're kind of told at business school we need to do. But we did all that and it completely didn't work and we got a bit miserable. And now we're back to a very, very small team. It's pretty much just the 4 directors up there. My dad's down there looking like some kind of evil godfather. He still ships the units. There are still people in the world that want physical copies of our stuff, so he licks the stamps every day. But it is just the 4 of us, and we all work from home, and we don't see each other very often. We see each other about once a month. So we've really gone back to that kind of indie, very small scale, but it's working for us. So I think, I don't want to stand here and sort of dispatch advice all night, but, don't worry about working in your pants. Do what Owen says, just make the games you love. That's the back catalogue, you all know about that. So let's talk about Uplink, if I can get my mouse. So, Uplink is all about computer hacking. Chris made this game back in 2001 when he was at university. I was at university with Chris, with Tom and Johnny. And Chris just made this game in his spare time. There wasn't really any indie game scene in 2001. All there was huge publishers ruining the industry. And Chris kind of made this game, and he said to me, mate, I've made a game, and we sort of looked at it and thought, yeah, that looks pretty good. And there was a competition at the time that Imperial, our university, was running, to basically give about £10,000 to any student that could put together a business plan for a company. So we put together a business plan to start taking money from the internet through something called WorldPay, which I think is still going, and sending out physical CDs all around the world. We sold about, 5 copies on the first day, then 10 on the second, then 30, then 50. So that kind of viral thing that maybe exists now, maybe didn't, we kind of keyed into. And I think partly because there was no game like Uplink. There were lots of people that wanted to be hackers, but they had no way to kind of fulfill that kind of vision. That's what it looked like to start off with. It looked 3D, very kind of necromancer, neuromancer, that kind of thing. That's influenced DEFCON map up in the top right-hand corner. We didn't know that at the time, but it turned into it. Ultimately, Uplink became 2D, and there's a picture of Chris and me. That was after our first kind of proper production run. So before digital distribution, we had to get people. We were printing the CDs first, and and it was funny. We used to run out of ink all the time. And then we finally had enough money to order like the bulk. I think we ordered 3,000 units or something. So this is what went right. I'm not going to go through all of this because it's a bit old now. What went wrong? This is probably the more important things. We lost 50 grand when a company called Strategy First went under in the States. 50 grand is an awful lot of money to 4 people that are trying to run a business. And I think that kind of, for us, really cemented our idea that we're going to do everything on the Introversion website first, and we're going to control the route to market, have a complete control of selling all of our games and taking the money that's going into our bank account first. And that's a rule that we've never broken. And when we were looking at the sales slide before, which is conveniently still up here, I know it isn't, it's a different one, but showing sort of 4.5k through your website, something like that. You were saying, yeah. That's not bad. It's not bad at all, and it will continue, and you'll get more and more. And
so they covered over Uplink, and they also covered their other games, Darwinian Multilinear. But they also had a bit of a fun about how they tried to actually get it took so long to get Darwinian, Multilinear, and everything. They had an interesting game on how they created their next game, War Games. I mean, well, not inspired by War Games. They played a clip from the movie, but then onto their game, DEFCON.
How many of you have seen War Games? How many haven't? I know what you're doing tomorrow, you're watching War Games. Chris watched War Games, thought, why has nobody ever made a game about global thermonuclear war? That's a light topic, I'll make a game. Not only that, I'm going to make a game in 24 hours, because he'd watched 24 with Jack Bauer, and he thought Jack Bauer could save the world in 24 hours. I can write a video game in 24 hours, this is what he managed, right? He came to me and he said, Mark, no more 3-year game projects, 24 hours, right? At the end of 24 hours, it looks a bit like DEFCON, he's nicked the map from Uplink and he's got some red dots up there, right? Day 3, he decides at the end of day 1, no, Mark, I'm going to make a game in 7 days. That's still pretty awesome. So yes, it is, mate. Make a game in 7 days. This is what he does in 3 days. Looking good. We've got some NATO symbology up there. We've got some, Roma, Cairo. We've got some locations looking like a game. Day 7, look at that. He's done it. If anyone knows DEFCON, that looks exactly what DEFCON looks like. So he made this game in 7 days. He said, oh, mate, I've just got a couple more tweaks to do, and then we can release it. 357... days later, the man's finished DEFCON. Brilliant. Well done, Chris.
For anyone who's in game development, this is the absolute truth. It seems like the closer you are to finishing, it's always that last mile that seems to... You take 90% getting the first 90% of the game, and 90% taking of your time is spending on the other 90% of the game. Anyway, with the story, they continue talking about how basically Darwinian Multilinear flopped. The company kind of just wasn't making any money for all the other things, and they went out with a bang. They then showed this really awesome video where they took all the multilinear characters from their game and destroyed them in the most amusing ways possible, including them nailing to things, boiling them, dousing them in paraffin and setting them alight, and my favourite, tying one of them to a gigantic explosive rocket, shooting up into the air and watching it blow up from a distance. But of course, at that stage, you know, they had that indie dream, they'd made the games, they were like working towards it, they had things and they had great success earlier on and some attention the whole time, and then they had setbacks and they were losing money, and, well, let's hear it from them.
So, what happened for us then? We genuinely thought that that was the end of Introversion, that our kind of 10-year project was over and we were done and dusted. And Chris went off to Alcatraz. He went on holiday. Well, he went on holiday to San Francisco, actually, and happened to go to Alcatraz. And when he was in Alcatraz, he came up with the idea of producing a game which was all about building and managing a maximum security prison. There's another project called Subversion that I haven't got time to go into, but a lot of the technology came from Subversion. So about this kind of time, do I need to explain prison architecture? Have you got it? Build and manage a prison, right? Pretty straightforward. You can see they're building a prison right now. Prisoners are going to come in fairly soon. If the prisoners don't have somewhere to go, they'll escape, so you need to bring a holding cell. Then they're going to need to be washed, so you need to build some showers, you're going to need power in there, you need to do the whole thing. And as we continue to develop Prison Architect, we're putting more and more depth and detail into it. But we had to really think about how we were going to launch it, because we'd had this hiatus, we've not done anything, but we didn't have any baggage either. There weren't 8 mouths to feed, there weren't lots of people, there were just really me and Chris. And Kickstarter had kind of started, and there'd been some like really high-profile success stories. And but we didn't know. Firstly, we didn't know how much money to ask for, because we could kind of cut our cloth. Really, there were only 2 guys. And secondly, we didn't really know how long to limit the Kickstarter campaign for, because it says, you know, what do you want to run it for? 2 weeks, 1 week, a month? You know, we didn't know. So we thought, what we'll do is we'll steal the Kickstarter concept and just completely replicate it on our website and just run it like a never-ending Kickstarter campaign. So we came up with a few tiers, we priced them, we were a bit scared, and Chris and I had a conversation about how much we expected to make. Sorry, I should have said, we've been working on Prison Architect for about a year, and we were going to enter it into the IGF, so we did have a reasonably strong kind of early build that we were going to give people access to immediately. And we decided that we basically, in the first 24 hours, wanted to do about 100 units, which would have been 30 grand or something like that, within sort of the first kind of month or so. You know, that would probably be about right. Anyway, we did about 100 grand in 3 days. So we really felt that we had been given a kind of mandate, if you like, by the indie community to continue with this project. So that's what we've been doing. We released it in September 2012, I think, and we've put out an update a month to the alpha process. Okay. We've had various discounts and Steam deals where we've brought in new customers. We've done a humble bundle with it. And just to sort of, you know, this wasn't planned, but in terms of like the last sales graphs that you saw, the latest figure for Prison Architect, as of about 5 minutes ago, was 270,823 units, which equates to 8,648,700.
And so that was a definite talk to end off on, just showing great power of indie gaming, and from the people who started it long before many people had even heard the term. If you'd like to hear the whole talk and all the talks online, just go to stateofplay.ie, and if you'd like to, then you'll be able to listen to all the talks about such game building tools such as Twine and everything, and I'll leave it at that. So this has been David Collins with BitNote, just giving you your quick scoop on the Irish indie gaming scene. Thank you for listening.